the Nigeria Institute of Medical Research in Lagos, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Lagos, Iroa Specialist Teaching Hospital in Edo, and the Africa Center of Excellence for Genomics Infectious Disease Center in Osun State. These institutions also function as research centers. We have enough reagents at the moment to attend to the needs we can imagine. And we are poised to secure more reagents as the need arises. Healthcare workers are also regularly sensitized to continue to have a high index of suspicion for the COVID-19 virus disease. Working in collaboration with the Guild of Medical Directors, we have conducted training on infection prevention and control for representatives of the private health facilities. Citizens are advised to discourage spread of misinformation that causes fear and panic. In addition to press briefings done by honorable ministers 3 times a week, Monday, Friday, and Wednesday, NCDC publishes daily situation report on COVID-19 in Nigeria. You can check up on their website. We also monitor closely the global situation with cases spreading quickly in other countries. As at 4th of March 2020, there have been 93,090 confirmed cases globally, and 88.4 of these have been in China. There have been 3,198 deaths. While the outbreak in Wuhan and generally in China seems to be reducing, the case numbers seem to be increasing outside China. Over 90% of the cases reported in the last 24 hours were reported outside China. We must also mention that countries have reported high rate of successful treatment, and the fatality rate generally has been under 4% on the average. Some countries have announced that they treated all their infected citizens safely and successfully, and the protocol for this treatment has been shared with us through the Chinese embassy. We also continue to closely compare Nigeria's infection prevention and control measures with what obtains in other countries, and I can confirm to you that our standing in Nigeria is among the best. The number of countries affected within the last 24 hours has increased by 5: Argentina, Chile, Poland, South Africa, and Ukraine. And that makes a total of 77 countries, with 7 of these being in Africa: Algeria, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Senegal, South Africa, and Nigeria. All of these are few in number, generally 1, 2, 3, 4. On Monday this week, we had the second Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Interministerial Multisectoral Meeting, which brought together several ministers from information, aviation, foreign affairs, interior and agriculture, and the agencies under them, including immigration, customs, and the Office of National Security Advisor. All of these are ministries and agencies that are in any way involved with border activities and with response activities. There, we assessed our response strategies and to ensure that we collaborate and work with each other and make sure the disease is contained. We have also strengthened our surveillance at the points of entry by continuing to strengthen the capacity of Port Health Services to identify suspected cases. We have been in touch with the Port Authority, who are part of our conversation, and the conversation we are having with Immigration and Customs is to assist Port Health Services and the Ministry of Health in monitoring the land borders for any suspected cases. We have also been in touch with the Nigerian Navy in respect of cargo ships coming in from the Far East. The Isolation Center at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital is being upgraded to be able to handle cases in the event of identification of any case here in the Federal Capital Territory. Meanwhile, we are using the intensive care unit, which has been equipped, fully equipped and prepared, and the training of personnel there has been completed. I therefore wish to advise all citizens to remain calm and avoid panic at this time, and to abstain from rumor mongering and rumor peddling. Our general advice is to wash your hands with soap and water regularly, or thoroughly clean your hands with commercial grade hand sanitizer. Maintain at least 2 meters of distance between someone and anyone who does not look well and is coughing or sneezing, is feverish, and advise that person to see a doctor. Make sure you and people around you follow good public respiratory hygiene practices, which means to cover your mouth and nose with tissue, paper, or handkerchief, and if not available, to cough or sneeze into your elbow. Make sure you dispose of the used tissue properly. If you feel well with the symptoms I've just described, fever, cough, headache, sneezing repeatedly, please see a doctor, especially if there is also difficulty in breathing. There is an NCDC toll-free number which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mentioned it before, I shall mention it again. 0800 970000. And you can replace the last 0 with 1, 2, 3 up to 9, and the last 2 with the number 10. Please do not make frivolous calls. Do not make joking calls. This is a serious matter. And do not engage in prolonged self-medication when you do not know what your health status is. I wish to inform everybody to stay informed about latest developments on COVID-19 through official channels, including NCDC and Federal Ministry of Health releases and announcements. Also visit the websites of these health agencies. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. We've been listening to the Honorable Minister of Health, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Before we take answers or questions, may I, with the kind permission of the Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, invite the DG, National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, NIPRID, Dr. Obi Adigwe, to make a presentation. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, colleagues from WHO, directors in the ministry, ladies and gentlemen of the press. One of the global fallouts of the recent outbreak has been supply chain disruptions of various commodities that are relevant to controlling the outbreak. these disruptions have either been through panic buying or genuine shortages, and this has been global. Nigeria has not been left out with this particular phenomenon. Honorable Minister, you would recall that once, as part of the preparedness, you mandated NIPRID and other frontline agencies to put in place various activities that would ensure that we can start to address these shortages and supply chain disruptions that have been occasioned by the outbreak. And so based on the mandate and the directives given by the Honorable Minister and the top management committee of the ministry, NIPRID went ahead to undertake research and product development activities. As you are aware, the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, NIPRID, is the agency charged with undertaking research and product development activities aimed at safeguarding health for Nigerians while also stimulating socio-economic development for the country. Honorable Minister, I am happy to inform you that based on the charge that you gave when the outbreak happened as part of the preparedness, NIPRID began a series of activities to address various challenges that our preliminary evidence identified that were contextual to our own situation. And I'll give you an example using the alcohol hand rub, which was one of the issues that majority of the citizens had indicated there were shortages of, prices were hiked, the media had also gotten on that and had identified supply chain disruptions. As part of the work that we did, NIPRID swung into action straight away and considered several formulas which were contextual to our environment. We validated some of these formulas and undertook our own contextual activities to ensure that a product that we will be presenting as a pilot production will be contextual to our situation. And Honorable Minister, it is with a sense of, a great sense actually, of national pride and patriotism that I am here to present to you a hand sanitizer which has undergone pilot product development at NIPRID and which is of the highest quality in terms of ensuring activity against the spread of coronavirus. Honorable Minister, sir, Honorable Minister, in addition to this pilot product development at NIPRID, we have also undertaking several other activities which will please you to know will also go a long way to addressing the supply chain disruptions. We have quickly opened up a database for local pharmaceutical manufacturers who have been licensed to produce hand sanitizers in Nigeria. The reason why we did this is we are aware that some of these companies do actually have excess capacity, and the companies who have indicated interest in joining the database are willing to share the excess capacity for contract manufacturing. It will interest you to know that among the companies that have indicated interest in joining this database are 2 companies who have WHO certification. That is the highest level of certification in terms of quality in the pharmaceutical world. Honorable Minister, in putting together this database as well, we have taken into consideration companies whose supply chain are focused on developing local capacity. So in addition to engaging the manufacturers who produce the hand sanitizers, we go further to identify where they get their raw materials from. And I'm glad to inform you that we've also linked this to at least one company that produces alcohol in Nigeria. One of them has a factory in Kogi State where they produce alcohol from cassava. What this means, Honorable Minister, is that in addition to having a product that is addressing the potential outbreak of coronavirus in Nigeria, we're also using this particular database capabilities to stimulate jobs, address local capacity building, stimulate knowledge transfer, and all the other socio-economic objectives that you are aware this administration has put in front of its agenda. That is encapsulated in Executive Orders number 3 and Executive Order number 5. Honorable Minister, as you are aware, the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development is also the regional authority in phytomedicines. And you will be glad to know that we have begun a profiling and modeling of phytomedicines which are sourced from natural plants in Nigeria that may have activity to virus like coronavirus. And once this is ready, we will be presenting this report to you. Honorable Minister, I think this particular intervention is also a good opportunity to bring to fore the medicine security concept, which has been a concept that you are aware we have been pushing for quite a while. And this particular issue is one that should be used by all Nigerians, all stakeholders, to ensure that this medicine security concept is something that should be taken seriously. And if we're able to use this particular opportunity to activate and get everybody on board with medicine security concept, we will be sure that we can go further along in providing jobs for our people. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, the DG NIPRI, for that beautiful presentation. Thank you once again. It's now time for questions.
Thank you. This product will, of course, another product, similar products, will be have to be presented to NAFDAC and certified as the laws prescribe. And I hope that NAFDAC will be able to do that as quickly as possible. On this example of local content and job creation, which this product represents. Questions, please.
Please make your questions very brief and straight to the point, please.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. My name is Moses Amori, Nation Speaker. My question is very straight. Just I want to say congratulations to Niprid for this product. Congrats, sir. But I don't know, all the sanitizers we are used to usually have this very thick and this viscosity very thick. So I want to ask, the viscosity, does it really matter, in the efficacy and of this product? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Friday. I'm a reporter with Channels TV. I would like to ask the Honorable Minister the concern raised by the National Association of Resident Doctors. Yesterday was the second time they're raising the concern that health workers in public hospitals, apart from the 5 hospitals that work hand in hand with the National Center for Disease Control, the health workers lack protective equipment. What is the federal government doing about that? And the second one, when you were listing states with recorded suspected cases, you didn't mention Plateau State. I want to know why, because the last briefing, we understand that there were some Chinese and nationals that were actually quarantined in Plateau State. Why did you not include Plateau in the list of states with suspected cases? The local wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, there is no screening going on there. It's only at the international wing that will have screening. Why is the case that way? Therefore, the DG Hybrid, I'd like to know whether the institute has met Professor Maurice Iwu, who claimed recently that he has a cure for coronavirus. The federal government, through the Ministry of Science and Tech, has said that the claim for treatment is already being tested by the American government. Why is our government not testing it? Why are we neglecting his claim? Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. My name is Femi Atoyebi from the Punch newspaper. My question has to do with the 50 billion naira IMS funding for countries affected by coronavirus. Is Nigeria qualified for this? And then what is the modality for accessing the fund? With only one case in Nigeria, are we qualified? My second question is about China. This morning we heard news that the country has banned bushmeat from its market. Are we considering this, sir? Thank you.
Well, we shall ask and answer questions in phases so that we do not cause confusion. Regarding protective equipment, we need to make it clear that the coronavirus disease is not indigenous to Nigeria. It is a virus that is imported. In fact, to most other countries who have that problem, it's a virus that's imported into their countries. So your main focus are international airport. And there's also focus on land borders and sea borders. So therefore, you don't expect it to see it in domestic airports, in local airports. Those are not our priority areas, except there's a good reason to also scale into local airports. So the international airports we have in Nigeria are 5. 4 are active at the moment: Lagos, Abuja, Kano, and Port Harcourt. Enugu is shut down for repairs, but they are included in all our conversations in this regard. We also focus on isolation centers and university hospitals and hospitals generally in the vicinity of these airports. So a hospital that's far away, we don't need to waste resources and waste energy going to locate resources where we don't expect a problem. So these are all well calculated. So we are not distributing protective equipment all across the whole country. That's not the strategy we're using. With regard to the cases found in Plateau, let me first of all say that we must go away from the idea of focusing on Chinese or any particular nationality. We must go away from that. because a case that entered Nigeria the other day, which we are dealing with now, calling the Index case, is not Chinese. And I think yesterday South Africa reported the first case they have, and it's also not a Chinese, it's South African. I think somebody went to Italy. I don't know what country it is. I don't know his citizenship, but someone who had been in Italy. Maybe it was a South African also. They didn't tell us that. But the point is that we must, if we are profiling and focusing on the wrong area, where we risk losing the right thing. So therefore, thinking that coronavirus is the same as Chinese is a big mistake, and we should go away from that thinking right now. The cases in Plateau were minors. I'm not even sure that those minors had been out of Nigeria within the preceding 4 weeks. So if they were in Nigeria 4-6 weeks before, there's no way that they will have had it. But nevertheless, I think they were tested and they were found negative, but they are not part of the statistics. So anybody who we are going to test is someone who has been in the Far East, in the high burden country, 2-3 weeks. We even extended by adding 2-3 weeks before, or has been in contact with someone who has been. So blindly thinking that you are going to get anybody and test them, you are going to just waste your resources. The reagents are extremely scarce now. The United States is buying up 75,000 doses, as they announced this morning. And if we don't take time, so you have to use yours very targetedly, not waste them anyhow on reckless testing. With regard to bushmeat, I do not know about the ban of bushmeat. It is speculated that there's a connection, a zoonotic connection of the coronavirus, the COVID-19, with bats. It was reported yesterday that there's a genomic connection that was established, because some people were saying that it probably was the result of biological weapons testing or laboratory testing, but super scientists have said no, there's a connection with the kind of virus that's been found in bats. I'm not aware of the steps that the Chinese government has taken. But we here in Nigeria, we are focusing on the contention that if we have to do with coronavirus, it has to be something that was imported. We do not believe that necessarily all animals have this virus, because it's not indigenous as far as we know right now. Because the virus is labeled as a novel virus, it's new. We're just learning about it. There are many things that are not yet known, but the facts are coming in little by little, and more is being learnt. But again, we don't need to give room to wild speculation. I would like the Honorable the Panel Secretary to respond to the question about funding. Yes.
Honorable Minister of Health, Director of the Ministry, Country Rep of WHO, gentlemen of the press, good morning. I think on funding, so far, it's just the domestic funding that we have. The one that announced by IMF and the World Bank, I think it was just an intervention by the two institutions made in their headquarters in Washington. So the guidelines and the framework of accessing the money is still yet to be developed. I believe the country reps in various countries where the disease manifested will be getting in touch with them to see how we can assess this thing. But for now, I think it's just strictly domestic funding. Yes. But I can also say that some donors and partners met with the frontline agency, that is the NCDC. Maybe the rep of the NCDC can maybe make some comments here. I know they met last week, the donors and partners, to see how they can support the NCDC in the area of response and preparedness. Maybe NCDC, you can say something.
Thank you very much, sir. The Honorable Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and directors here present, and all our partners. Yes, we met with all the partners on how we can actually fund this particular coronavirus. And then I have with me the coordinating director that actually coordinated the program with me on that very day. So I will hand over to her to explain to us exactly what's really.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much. So for the first 28 days, we have a budget of about 1.67 billion to handle this COVID-19 response. And so we've spoken to our partners, a lot of international partners and also local partners, and we are continuing to have that conversation. And you agree with me that the Aliko Dangote Foundation donated 200 million straight away to this. And so I'm pulling together the partners' contributions, some of which is already in country, which we're already using to the response straight away. You can agree with me that we have a surge capacity already in the airports. We have a lot of work going on in Ogun and Lagos State, and some of the fundings that they have given are already being used. So they have reprogrammed some of the money in country towards this response. So we'll continue to collate them and make them available. Thank you.
Thank you. With regard to the discovery of Professor Maurice Iwu, he was introduced by the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology as having developed a product that was believed to work against the SARS virus, the severe acute respiratory syndrome that was around the world a couple of years ago, that he had developed a product that was effective against that particular virus. And he suggested that since that virus has a relationship with the COVID-19, there's a similarity. They're not identical, but they seem to have a relationship, that this product could also be applied. And that is what the Professor Maurice Iwu said. And that the product, which I think it was 2015 that he found it, long ago, before now, was already in the United States being tested by some research institutions in the United States. And he suggested that if that test came out positive, it might be effective against the coronavirus COVID-19. So even before now, it was already said to be with American research institutions. So it is nothing brand new, and I would like everybody to get that message correctly. With regard to this particular question of Professor Maurice Iwu, and also with regard to the viscosity of the hand sanitizer, the DG of NIPRID will respond.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. My Honorable Minister has taken most of the, has dealt with most of the issues regarding the Maurice Iwu question. However, NIPRID is open to partnerships and collaborations, but NIPRID has to be approached first. You know, this is the gold standard in terms of intellectual property issues. We need to be approached officially. As regards undertaking collaborative work in phytomedicines, I don't think there is any institute in Africa that is better capacitated than NIPRID to do that. We have close to 70 masters and PhDs all aggregated around that area, and we've been involved in developing protocols that led to one of the most successful phytomedicines with activity against sickle cell disease. So we have the capacity, and we're open to collaborations when it comes. Regarding the second question, which is the viscosity of the hand sanitizer, which was product developed in NIPRID. Yes, you're quite right that most of the hand sanitizers in the market are more viscous. It doesn't make it more potent. NIPRID actually developed two pilot products, one with less viscosity and one with higher viscosity. We just didn't present the second one here, but we also have that prototype. What we found was that when we did the initial product testing, people seemed to prefer the less viscous one because they felt it was multi-purpose. They could use it for their hands and they could use it for hard surfaces. When they used the more viscous one for hard surfaces, they found residue on it. We haven't validated that, but that's just a preference of certain people when we did the product testing. But we have ability to do both of them. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Next questions, please.
I want to do a follow-up on NIPRID. You were saying something about the agency licensing some companies to mass produce this hand sanitizer, but you didn't finish it up. We'd like to know which of these, what's the name of these companies that you have licensed? How many of them? Then, Minister, sir, you said something about the passengers that you are tracing. That so far you've been able to trace 55, and there are to be 156. So the rest, 146. Is it? Okay, but I know you said 55. So I want to know, sir, is it that the documentation of these passengers did not provide enough contact address to be able to reach them, or is it going to be that you approach, what plan do you have anyway, really, to get it done? Because as time goes on, the dangers are also enormous. Thirdly, sir, you said some countries in Africa have not tested, have not gotten any confirmed cases. At one workshop yesterday I attended, they were talking about lack of capacity by some of these countries to be able to get the testings right. Are we not going to proceed in ignorance rather than doing the right thing? Supposing some of these countries have these cases, but because they don't have the capacity, they are not being confirmed. What is Africa as a continent doing to improve the capacity of countries to test this virus?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ogon Ezedimbo, health correspondent with AIT. Honorable Minister, sir, you talked about upgrading and equipping the isolation unit at the hospital. But how do you explain the Senate President's disappointment when he visited the center just on Wednesday? And that's one. Two, the NCDC official present during the visit complained that they had to borrow money to fix some of the mattresses at the units. And you talked about funding, that we have no issue, no problem as regards funding. How will they explain this, sir?
I'm sure you were referring to ones in Yaba. There's a tweet from an official of the Lagos State government saying that we have 3 suspected cases under isolation. One is from France, the other is from England, the other one is from China. And they say all the samples have been collected. And is it these cases you were mentioning, saying that the results have come out remaining 1? If it is, please, can you just give further explanation?
Good morning. Rachel from News Agency of Nigeria. Okay, Honorable Minister, I don't know if the government have put in place right mechanism to protect those who are most vulnerable, like the older population and people with serious health problems, like TB and hepatitis C, which are drug resistant and co-infection. Thank you very much.
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from ASU Radio and Television. There are reports that the case spread more rapidly outside mainland China. I want to know if the government are placing restrictions from traveling restrictions from countries with higher cases of coronavirus to help curb the spread in the country.
Okay, thank you. We'll respond to these questions before we look. With regard to the licensing of products, I will ask the Director General of NIPRI to respond afterwards. With regard to the passengers, no country is ever able to completely track all passengers because passengers are mobile. As we speak, and remember that not all those, don't assume that all the passengers are Nigerians at all. There are many who've moved on to their country, moved on to perhaps countries in Africa, or maybe they just came to do something briefly and they have gone back to their country. So you are generally never able to track them. But those you can track, we use all methods. That's why we have specialists who do the tracking, epidemiologists and other specialists who do the surveillance, looking for them, asking neighbors, and that's where the general public can also help and directly appealing. Maybe some of them have not even heard that there's a problem, that there was a problem on board of their aircraft, may not even have heard at all if they are busy with other things. That's why I made the public appeal just now that if you arrived on Turkish Airlines on Friday, the 24th in Lagos, and you have not heard, please isolate yourself and also get in touch with the number which I gave just now. And if anybody knows a neighbor or a friend who was on that flight, advise that person to self-isolate and report. That's what we can do for those who are within the country. For those who have left, there is almost nothing you can do. We try also to continue looking through the addresses they gave, and from one address to... In one case, we saw that the person was not at that address that was given, so we have to move to another address. It was not there, moved to another until it was finally tracked, and it turned out to be okay. So we do very conscientious tracking and tracing of passengers, just to be sure. But if after 14, 15 days, we do not see any case, then we can begin to forget about that, the manifest and the people who were on the, because that's the incubation period. If you didn't see any sign, it means nobody got infected, they were all lucky. With regard to the isolation ward, long ago, as far as last year or so, the ministry have been looking at building a real isolation center, properly designed, state-of-the-art, even before coronavirus, as part of the infrastructure required in our country. So that has been designed, and we decided that it should be at the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital in Gwagwalada. The construction is ongoing. In January, this outbreak happened, and of course we asked the contractor to fast-track the construction there, which he's doing. So he thinks to be finished by next month. I have been there myself to see him, and he's fast-tracking the work on the place. The windows are being installed and so on. But in the meantime, I told the medical director to make a building immediately available, because you do not know when things will happen. So they made a building immediately available, a brand new building which they wanted to use for intensive care. That one we have furnished, we have prepared, we have put on air conditioners, staff have been trained, and all the protocols have been established, and it's functional, as I can tell you now. The Senate President and the delegation went there just as the finishing touches were being put, and I think he probably expected that the bed was already made, but we're just almost close to making it. By the time another team visited the next day, they saw that it was almost already completely finished, and then they complained. I heard from the senator, chairman of the committee, who said that there had been a lot of improvement in there. So that one is taken care of. Now, with regard to NCDC, I want to say, first of all, that every amount they asked for was granted by federal government immediately. Government didn't waste time at all. But before you once it's approved, you have to go through a process. You have to go through the Ministry of Finance, go through the budget, and so on. And in the meantime, NCDC said they want to make immediate procurements. So I gave them the go-ahead to tell their contractors to supply, and they will be paid after. So because they deal in the business of infection prevention and control, personal protective equipment, they have customers already who they buy from. So they went ahead to get from those customers, pending when they will get their money to pay, and those producers actually give them some materials on credit. And here I can say I thank them very much for doing that. And I believe many of them have been settled now, if not all, because the money has come in. But it was only a measure we took at that time, not to wait until you see money before you start procuring what you need urgently, but to tell your trusted supplier to say, please, I need this. I will get my money next week, but give it to me because I need it today. And they complied, and so we didn't have any gaps with our supplies and with our equipment. So that was just a normal understanding. As to the 3 cases, yes, those are the 3 cases. One of them we're expecting the result. It takes some hours for the result to come out. How to protect the vulnerable, and well, what we have said is that people should maintain a good distance, social distance, and advise anyone who's coughing, sneezing, or feverish near you with no clear diagnosis. Keep a distance from that person and advise that person to see a doctor or go and rest at home. And the vulnerable who have other ailments should better at this time probably also avoid crowds, avoid crowded places, and protect themselves. As for countries spreading restrictions, every country develops its own strategy on how to protect its citizens. And some countries decide to place an outright ban. Some decide that they will close down schools. Some decide that they will reduce gatherings for maximum 5,000, nothing more than 5,000. So every country develops a protocol which it believes will work for them. And that protocol depends on how you see your threat and how you see what lies before you. And we are doing exactly the same thing. We are observing the situation very closely and working at developing a protocol that works for Nigerians, but does not restrict activities unnecessarily and does not restrict normal business needlessly. So if there's need, we change the protocol. In the meantime, since we have only one case, and that case is well-defined and is receiving treatment, we haven't seen any other threat. We do not see any reason to bring additional, to join other countries in creating this ban or that ban. But let me say we have already strengthened the screening of every passenger that enters this country. We have also issued an advisory, which I will repeat now, that any Nigerian who has intention of traveling to any of these countries with a high burden should postpone it, except it's extremely important. Except it's very, very essential, postpone your intention to travel until further notice. We are also going to start, as soon as we are ready, to screen also passengers who are leaving the country. And we have urged all countries to also screen passengers who are leaving their country so that there is less endangerment for those who are in the aircraft in which they fly, and also reduce the risk of the country they fly into. And I think many countries are already doing that. China is already doing it. They screen passengers who are leaving their country. Not only those who are coming, but those who are leaving. Many airlines have also redone their schedules. They are no more flying to certain destinations, either because of the risk or because they have discovered that there are not enough passengers to make the flight worthwhile. So if it's no more economically viable, they will not fly there anymore. They will reduce their flight pattern, or if they think there is risk of, there is not enough protection for their passengers in their flight, they will also not go in there. So airlines also take their own decisions, and we work with them to let us know that if there's anybody who falls sick on board, they must notify ground control before they land. They know that. We have told them that repeatedly, and then we know what to do when a craft like that arrives the country. I'll ask the DG of NIPRID to speak about the licensing of other companies that are producing sanitizers.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. As regard the question of licensing of local manufacturers that produce hand sanitizers, perhaps there was a miscommunication. I never said that NIPRID licenses. In Nigeria, only one agency has the authority to license products like hand sanitizers, and that's NAFDAC, the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control. What I said was that NIPRID was developing a database. So what we're doing is that we're using data efficiencies and artificial intelligence modeling techniques to collate, local manufacturers who already have NAFDAC licenses to produce hand sanitizers. Now, the situation is that someone who sets up a manufacturing company has equipment that has functionality for 3 shifts a day. Historically, because of low patronage or because of several issues, they would run only 1 shift. And probably the market for that particular product hasn't been fully developed to run 3 shifts. So our database identifies such people so that if in your manufacturing company where you already have a NAFDAC license to produce hand sanitizer, but you're only using 1 shift and you have 2 shifts that nothing is happening with your machines, we can link people who are interested to these companies so that within the period that this outbreak is active, we can use the entire 3 shifts in your company. What this would mean is that there will be better availability of the product and consequently lower prices. Now, as regards telling you the particular companies, unfortunately, I'm constrained by data confidentiality issues. Our protocol is that you write directly to NIPRID, who is developing the database. Expeditiously, within 24 to 48 hours, we would use the artificial intelligence modeling that is in place to link you up to a company that fits into the particular request that you've made. So if, for instance, you require 1,000 liters a day, there's another company that we would match you with a company that has excess capacity of 1,000 liters a day. If your request is in Lagos, we'll of 1,000 liters a day. If your request is in Lagos, we will match you with a company who their factory is in Lagos. So getting in touch with NIPRID, for those of you who don't already know NIPRID, the easiest way to get in touch with us is to send an email to information.niprid@niprid.gov.ng. I'll say that again, information.niprid@niprid.gov.ng. That is the formal way. For those of you who want to be less formal, I have opened the Twitter page. I don't check it often, but there are people who check the Twitter page often to ensure that you get that. And my Twitter handle is @Dr. Adigwe. That's @DRADIGWE. So if you require those capacities and you want to get in touch with those you don't want us to get you in touch with those companies, get involved either with the formal means or the informal means. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Yes, there are some small African countries that may not, as at yet, have capacity to do testing. But it does not mean that they have no capacity. All these countries have public health experts. They have epidemiologists. They have the necessary manpower. What they may not have may be a laboratory. what they may not have. And I think, if I remember correctly, about 30 or so country or 35 in the African region can already test by themselves. Now, just some days ago, the Africa CDC, Africa Center for Disease Control, which monitors what all African countries are doing, called for a meeting, an emergency meeting in Addis Ababa for all African countries, first of all, to better understand this whole problem and the challenge as far as it affects Africa. Secondly, to develop a common strategy, a common understanding of how to approach this problem. And finally, to see how we can cooperate and assist each other. So what we expect is that the African countries, as I said, all have capacity, public health expertise and capacity to also look after themselves and their country and incoming flights. But if they need to do some testing, they will send samples to a country that can help them. And Nigeria can be among those, just to help them to do a testing. And before we got our own reagents to do the testing, we were looking at Johannesburg, South Africa, because they were the first to get it, looking at Johannesburg to help us identify until we got our own reagents to do this test. So we must understand that clearly. It's just about a laboratory. It's not about capacity. Next questions, please, and I think we can close from there, if any. Okay, no more question.
I would like to know the mechanisms that are put in place to sensitize local women and children in rural areas who does not have access to internet. Thank you, sir.
That's the last question, I believe. So, well, we have excellent opportunity to use this platform to also speak generally on general hygiene. And it's not only coronavirus that we're using the opportunity to address, but all diseases. For example, talking about not coughing into the public also helps us very well with tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is spread in the same way. So the advice not to just cough anyhow, but to cough into a handkerchief will help. And the sensitization on that is done in the whole country, whether by radio, television, by word of mouth, or by newspaper, sooner or later will reach rural areas, and it helps in addressing all disease patterns in these areas. But as I said, our main priority is in the arrival areas, what we call the point of entry, because if this is an imported problem, you focus on the point where you expect it to enter the country first. Rural areas, yes, but the most immediate will be the cities where they will come in by aeroplane, and that's where we want to go to tackle it first. Yes, yes, and also in addition to what the Permanent Secretary just reminded me, when we had the interministerial and multisectoral meeting, the Nigeria National Orientation Agency was there with us too, who's at the Ministry of Information. They were there to talk about the coronavirus and other diseases, and also provide information and help. So thank you very much. I just invite the representative of the World Health Organization to say something to all of us. Thank you.
You've been watching Channels Television's live coverage of the Minister of Health's briefing on the coronavirus case in Nigeria. Do stay with us as we resume our lineup of normal programming. And coming up next is News Track.
You've been watching a live Channels Television event.